the first thing I'd say about war is that there's no romance, you know. They make movies about how romantic war is, you know, and things. It's not, it's ugly. When we were growing up, it was kind of assumed that we would somehow go off to war. Each generation had had a war. And when Vietnam came along, we just thought it was our turn.
It became clear to me early on that it was about survival, and about survival for me, my friends. And I don't think it made much difference if we were there, or if the North Vietnamese were there, or if the VC owned the country. The peasants would have been doing the same thing, trying to live, work their rice fields, and live the way they'd lived for thousands of years.
I went into the Marine Corps right out of high school as a reservist in '64. And I went to Paris Island for boot camp. And at that time, no one was even talking about Vietnam.
I was 22 years old, and the draft was going to get me, so I enlisted in the Marine Corps to avoid the draft.
I graduated from high school at the end of May, and in June 4th, I was on my way to San Diego for basic training.
I was out of high school, and I worked and not going anywhere, didn't have money to go to school. And I turned 19 and I was going to be drafted soon, so I chose the Marine Corps.
I went to Bucknell University. And when I graduated, pretty much I knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to join the rat race of trying to climb the corporate ladder. I thought about going to law school. And believe it or not, I know it sounds kind of strange, I applied to the Marine Corps and the Peace Corps.
Maybe because I had two relatives, one of each one was a Marine, one was in the Navy. And the one that was in the Marine Corps, he would, he'd tell stories like, well, is that true? And it was like more of a challenge. I've always had that challenge to be a Marine, to do what they do. Can I make it?
Well, I was failing in school, and I was too young. I had a girl, and I was too young to go to school. I wasn't mature enough to go to school when I joined the Navy.
Well, after my first year in 1965, I read about a battle. It was the first big battle with the Marines in Vietnam. It was called Operation Starlight. And right then and there, I thought, why am I being a weekend warrior when the real Marines are over there fighting?
And about 36 hours into boot camp, after staying up all night, getting our haircut, having our clothes taken away, the next morning, no sleep, we had 5 minutes to shit and shower, as they say. So I was sitting along the wall in the open stalls, and the thought came to me, what the fuck have I gotten myself into?
First 2 weeks in Vietnam, I was on mess duty. That's where they have a makeshift tent they use as a mess hall. And that's what I did for the first couple of weeks. And The only thing that happened is probably week number 2, the Vietnamese hit the airstrip, which was a mile and a half inland from where we were. And that was a wake-up call.
Vietnam was shocking. I mean, it was at least a cultural shock. I mean, you're going back in time. You come back, you come from a world of cars and televisions and telephones to a world that's more primitive than you could have imagined.
Just everything was new. I was overwhelmed, and you had to focus on what, even then, you had to focus on what you were supposed to do.
I think I kind of knew what I was doing, but I look back on it now, I was green. I didn't really know what I was doing, but nobody else did either.
We got up really early, about 3 o'clock in the morning that morning, and we knew we were going to go over the sides of the boats and, make a landing. Well, naval bombardment was pounding the shoreline, and they were really bombing the area that they were really hitting hard, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And so they ran us through the galley and fed us breakfast, and we were going through the galley, and we were all excited. We were pumped up, and we were ready to go. We would train for war. Right? We'd train to fight. This was what we were in the Marine Corps for.
And I remember going down the nets. I remember there were some cameramen that we had to help down the nets because they were a little concerned about getting down the nets.
But when we got there, there were about a dozen cameras like you've got here, and newsmen that said CBS News and NBC News and everything. So those are the ones that had greeted us when we landed. So it was totally a relief to know that we weren't going to have trouble getting on the beach. So
I was isolated, I guess, I felt invisible because new guys, you had to prove yourself. So I got to my squad, and there's Corporal Hooper and Lance Corporal DeMarco and Alex, and later on it was Perez. I'm the only one left that fired him.
But the second night we were in Vietnam, we had gone into a big sandy area inland of it, and we were told to dig in. So I had dug a hole deep enough that I almost couldn't climb out of, because I wanted to be safe. And our first platoon leader came around. He says, "Doc, we're going on patrol tonight at midnight, and I want you to go along."
We were approaching the trench. They were entrenched on us. They had a tunnel system. And he says, "Doc, you sit right down here." There was a well there. You know how the wells are there. It was a well. I just sat down by the well. I was upset. But at the moment, I was upset with him. I want to be up there with you guys, Well, you sat down here. We'll call you when you're needed. Okay? He was sergeant.
We went out in single file, and let's see, there's some survivor help here because we'd gotten a new lieutenant, company or platoon commander, and for some reason he liked my squad, so we were like points 6 or 7, 8 times in a row. And I spoke up when we were going up. I said, can you let one of the other squads be point? And I was hoping it was like second squad, but he chose third squad, which was Alexander. That's a person.
So our squad went out, and it was pitch black. And we went out in a great big loop, a couple miles, and then we started to come back toward our base camp. And as we did that, again, you couldn't see the man in front of you. As a corpsman, I was always at the back. You had your point man doing point guard. and I was just ahead of the rear guard. So I was way at the back, but the column came to a halt. And then we were told, the word was passed down the column to get down. So we all had to get down and take cover.
And so he advanced, the whole line advanced probably 30 meters, and it all broke open. It broke loose. And then they, coming up, and there was shouting and intense noise, automatic weapons. And I ran up, and there he was, and I took care of him. I spent quite a bit of time there behind him. When we got him out, I got behind that tree and took his gun and was shooting people in the trench.
So we were moving out, and that was supposed to be me. And so they were up there and up in front, you didn't know, another part of the column could get hit and you wouldn't know shit about it, because if you were back here, you didn't have that experience. That's why stories get so messed up, that people remember different things about the same event. It depends on where you were in a column.
We didn't know what was going to happen. We sat there for 45 minutes or an hour, and then they passed the word down that the point man had heard something in the bush ahead of us, and he thought it sounded like the bolt from an automatic weapon sliding home. So we called in the helicopters to drop flares, parachute flares, and they were dropping parachute flares. They come down on a small parachute. It's a magnesium flare, probably that long, and then it burns and it lights up the whole area.
Corporal Church crawled up beside me. I was shooting. He shot up beside me and had his rifle right here, right there. And he shot. And took my right ear out. And I turned around and I cussed him out. And he crawled up beside me and started shooting. And he was saying, "I got him! I got him!" He was picking them off. And he was shot right in the chest.
So anyway, shots were fired, and this ripped back was Alex's head. And so we got him medevac, and he died on the medevac. And it was just one sniper. It was an automatic round. It was an automatic reverse. It was 4, 5, 6 rounds. And they got him in the chest. So we went by, and we were going back, and then all I saw was his flak jacket and an ace bandage, bloody. So we carried on and sat up, you had to keep going.
And they dropped those for probably a half an hour. And finally, as the flares died out, the guys up front said they could hear people moving away in the bush. So we probably were about to walk into a major ambush at night. And I was at the back of the column, but it scared the bejeebers out of me, because I thought it's pitch black, and if I've got wounded, how do I find him? What am I going to do? So.
And I laid down 2 patrols in my whole time there. And we had a patrol that night, my God, and I couldn't do it. I just took it out and laid us down so we'd be safe. And that was the first time I cried there. He was the most popular person in the platoon. And we had guys who were getting ready to go home, and how they came out from our battalion area because they were getting ready, and they were ready to go. Again, it shook the whole platoon.
There's always bad guys. And you have to have good guys to stop the bad guys. And the problem is the bad guys are not really bad. They have bad leaders, evil people. The people that fight the wars are not the bad people. I don't care what side you're on.
According to us, we're the only civilization in this entire universe. Why are we trying to kill each other? Don't make sense.
They had a reason to do what they did. Ho Chi Minh had a dream to reunite South Vietnam and North Vietnam. Communism aside, it would have turned out the same as it did today, in my opinion. You know, he wrote a letter to President Truman. You know about that? He wrote a letter to President Truman, and he quoted Thomas Jefferson, asking the United States to side with them and to help them reunite North and South Vietnam. That letter ended up in the Pentagon, this is my understanding. It ended up in the Pentagon. President Truman never saw it. And that came out later. So we were on the wrong side of history. So I think we thought what we were doing was the right thing, and it was the right thing, but I think the major thing that we were all doing was watching out for each other, you know, bringing each other back.
To be honest with you, after May 5th of 1966, when we had a battle that resulted in a lot of people getting killed, and I obviously survived, any memories I had of high school and life in Springfield were just pretty much evaporated. They just, it meant nothing. And it still doesn't. I mean, life before 1966 is pretty much a non-entity with me.
The war was fought, you know, on the American side by, I always say, we were all amateurs. And some people just stayed a year if they were lucky. And by the year, they might know something, but they were gone, and you put in new guys. And it was just fought by inexperienced people.
It had a huge effect on my life, the people I met there, the people that were in my platoon, the people that got killed.
When I left Vietnam in March of 1967, I was on the aircraft flying out of Da Nang Air Base there, and I looked down and I said, let it go, let it go. And I think I gave myself such a mental block, and it's hard to explain this, that I can see a picture of a Marine that I served with, and I can't remember him. Because I think I did that to my inner conscience. Forget it, let it go.
I have no animosity at all towards those people. Like I said, I think we were on the wrong side of history, and I can't have more respect than the people we fought.
In many ways, rewarding, and I'm glad I did it, but I didn't want to do it again.
I was numb for so many fucking years. You know, I'm a fairly good actor. I mean, to hide things. But I didn't feel anything for a lot of years. Not anything I let go of. I'm much better now. But, I mean, I cry at stupid movies and stuff on TV. I didn't cry for a long time.
I saw a country that was beautiful, probably the most exotic, beautiful country I've ever seen, but the ugliness of it, I couldn't see it the way I don't know how to explain that, but I want to go back and see it now. I want to see if we made a difference that I just, maybe as they say, that war should never have happened. I want to see the Vietnamese today. I want to talk to them. I want to see the little children. That's why I want to go back. What most Marines probably tell you is closure. Let's end it. Let's get this over with. And maybe that's what I want to see.
I think when we go to Hill 50, which is the site of Utah, that I want to take flowers. And I know where every man died. I know where that. Because the Vietnamese have cemeteries. They have these big round things about the size of this, circular graves. And I don't think that they would build on them or turn them into agriculture or change them. I don't think they would do that. And so those will mark the places, and I'll know exactly where things are. And I might get closure from that, I don't know.
Well, I was reluctant, but Gene Cleaver has no memories of the day. He said, I can't remember a thing, because he was in shock. He was basically unconscious when we got him on the chopper. He called me and said, I'd really like to go back. Gene's a little older than I am. And he said, I'd like to know exactly what happened on Hill 50 that day. So I agreed to go back with Gene and tell him what I know. So
I am excited to go back to Hill 50. You know, 7 of those 10 men that were killed were in my platoons, either in weapons platoon or in the 3rd platoon. In the 3rd platoon, 4 of them I didn't know real well, but I did know the other 3, I think for their sake, I really want to go back, because I just think that was a very important moment to me. I think of them often, and I think of the lives they didn't get to lead.
I lost part of me there. And I want it back.
It's Vietnamese and American artist. He was one of the Vietnamese artists.
I see. Okay.
And they had that book there. There's a book that came with it that showed all 20 artists from each side. And when I read about him and how he was on that tank, and he said, I love to see American veterans. I said, bingo. I want to meet him, so that's when I started making inquiries and found his niece here.
Oh,
good. Wow. Thank you. Yeah.
You haven't changed in 22 years. Well, I'm the guy who organized it.
Yes.
I started writing a book about our unit. I was over here twice. I served in 1966 and 1968. And I thought it would be the best way to do it would be to end it with a trip back. And I put out the word who wants to come with me? And these folks here said they're in. So.
Và khi mà kết thúc cuốn sách.
Trang và
Nice to meet you.
yeah. Hello, boss. I'm Hip. Yeah. I'm from East Midwest.
East, East, West.
Yeah.
I want to take a picture.
Years ago, Marine officers from the Marine Basic School in 667 to be exact, raised the funds for this school. They were the hardest hit basic school in the officers, in any of the Marine officers classes. They lost 43 KIAs just from that one class in the war. Well, a couple years after that, they started raising funds for the library, and to do that, they built that wall. And so that's when I learned about the MacDinchie School. And so I got a hold of some of our guys, and we wanted to honor a close friend of ours, Charlie Alexander, whose name is on that wall now on a plaque. Okay, this is Corporal Charlie Alexander. We donated this plaque to him first, our platoon with Detty and I and some others.
It's the first time I've done this and not cried.
I know.
Some of the exhibits are fake, like the guillotine, which was used to chop this guy's head off. That guillotine's actually out in Beijing province in a museum there.
I've been in anti-war activism certainly for the last 25 years. I wasn't so much during the war, because I was kind of getting on with my life. You know, I was in the Naval Hospital for a year. I went to physical therapy school, got married, and I just got on with my life. But as time goes by, I've been more of an anti-war person. I belong to Vets for Peace. And so I've always, there's been a little, sometimes it's hard to be in that realm of the peace activists, and with my experience here in Vietnam, and being a Marine and being in war, it just was a little hard, and so this trip has sort of helped me sort that out a little bit. The one thing, and you know, and it's hard to, you know, be anti-war, but be really proud of the Marines and even the things we did here.
Đều là lính à? Kể cả hai bạn. All of you were in Vietnam during the war?
Yes. Together.
Tất cả và đều cùng nhau. So you guys met in Vietnam during the war time?
Yes.
Yes.
Trong những năm đấy là tất cả những người này họ đã gặp nhau ở Việt Nam. Tức là ở Mỹ họ ở nhiều bang khác nhau. Sau này nhưng mà lại gặp nhau, quen nhau
trong chiến tranh Việt Nam.
Trong chiến tranh của Việt Nam.
Ác liệt lắm.
Vâng. So difficult. In 1971, there was a campaign that happened between Vietnam and Laos. That at that time, the people of both sides, the people was just, you know, there's so many dead, and then the forces getting weakened and weakened at that time.
đang ngồi trên ghế nhà trường để học tập thì đều phải những giáo sư, tiến sĩ, thầy giáo và sinh viên đều phải lên đường để vào trong chiến trường.
And at that time, he was a student at the University of Fine Art, and even though the policy that you didn't have to join the army, but at that time, all people who are a doctor, who are a professor, who are a student, they all have to, their study being interrupted, they have to join the army. People, even though there was a war, we really hated war, and we just want the country to be as peaceful as quickly as possible.
Nhưng mà các bạn uống nước không nó nguội.
But you have to drink tea, otherwise it gets cold.
Phải ăn ác mà.
You have to eat the nuts, otherwise it gets soft.
Tôi không có nhiều, nhưng mà tôi thấy ngon, thấy các bạn khen ngon quá thì cái chỗ lạc thừa này sẽ gửi cho hai bạn gái.
Yeah, FOs were up there. 106 was on top of that hill.
I guess there wasn't an elevator.
Oh, no. We didn't live there was no elevator.
No control south. That's what happened.
It was a highlight to see that hospital ward that we were in. Hell, I didn't know that was there until 1980. And how foolish were we, We didn't know that. We had people all around those hills. And we were babysitting at a VC hospital. And these people are just so ingenious. I mean, the Vietnamese, I don't know how they did what they did, We walked around on top of them all the time. We didn't know, unless we started digging and, dig up people.
I was the organizer, but I wanted others to have that experience. I wanted to see it, see them have it, and so I did. And you can't tell what's going on inside someone, but you know that this has had a profound impact on their identity and how they see their past now, like that.
March 17th.
Yeah, this was a couple weeks after Utah. He fought on Utah, Huang did.
Year of birth.
He was talking about the 12 helicopters that landed, and that had to have been on the 4th.
In the Army.
He kept his diary the whole time when he was coming down the Ho Chi Minh Trail
Yeah.
in 65, all the way up to his death in March of 66.
14,266 is the bottom line.
The girls, she was a anti-aircraft gun operator. She shot down planes. And she was in the cultural troop that entertained the troops. This is where it was right there, yeah.
Do you want to watch the documentary now?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes. Thì mọi người phải ngồi sang bên này để xem màn hình TV.
So we all have to sit this way and watch it on this TV screen.
Yeah.
So we all gonna face this way.
Tranh Việt Nam.
In this film, it has over 110 photographs. This one is about Agent Orange. At the bottom of the painting, you see there's the hat and the people who have passed away.
Phía trên là những vong hồn của những đứa trẻ con và nó bị chất độc màu da cam trong chiến tranh.
And the top is the spirit of the children who die or being born affected from the Agent Orange.
Tất cả những bức tranh này đều đang được lưu giữ tại Bảo tàng Mỹ thuật Quốc gia.
So do you want to see the drinking water system?
Sure.
Yeah.
The water isn't that great quality around here. And so we donated this water purification system for not only the students here when they're at school, but they can take it home with them.
Yeah.
And in many cases, the water that they take home from this system will be better than what they have at home. So we're serving two purposes with this system.
Viếng thăm có cái chiến đấu ở cái chương trình này, tôi thay mặt nhân dân của xã Bình An của huyện Quảng Bình nói lời cảm ơn chân thành tới các cựu binh Mỹ và các thành viên đồng đội đã quan tâm.
Thank you so much for your coming back. Before you have some mission here, but now we come back and help the community here. On behalf of the community, I would like to thank you so much for all your contribution, your support.
It's our honor. It's our honor to be here.
We went to that elementary school, even though those children right now today are probably better off than they've ever been. Once I saw those little children in that school and to see their faces and watch them perform for us, it really got to me. And I didn't know that was going to happen. And I think a couple other people may have broken down too. And it's just the thought of, if everybody could see that aspect of little children and then relate that to a war situation, maybe we wouldn't have so many wars, because I guess that was the toughest thing for me. But yet I know those children today are doing much better, well, pretty much better than they were before.
So this is, coming here today, to me is like a dream come true. I feel like my heart has been here. My heart has already been here, part of this place for so long. And now to be here in person is just beyond gratifying, just beyond words how gratifying it is. And then when the performers started, oh my gosh. To see those kids performing and to see all the kids, period, it just made my heart, it just touched my heart. Goodbye to you too.
And I just really enjoyed that we can see Vietnam as friends and as a prosperous and happy people. And I really started seeing that when I hit Ho Chi Minh City and saw all these Vietnamese women with their bows eye dresses on that first morning that I was here. What an opportunity that was to see them and see them so happy. Well, I'm always going to have flashbacks. I'm always going to see, Joe Blow with his brains blown out. I'm always going to see that kind of stuff. Those things, those visions, those things are never going to get out of your mind. But I think that I can deal with them better now. And I dealt with these things for years and years, and I think I dealt with them. And I always told myself, John McCain spent, all those years, and all those guys spent all that time in a prison. And if he could do that, and he's done with his life, I certainly shouldn't be whining about the things that I saw.
Well, I've thought about that, and I can't really. It's hard to say what's going on inside somebody. I mean, if they don't, reveal it explicitly, outwardly, and but I know something is going on. I know that that it's quite a profound experience for them. Some people have said that they'll never see it the same way again. The memory, the set of memories that they had from the war are just been kind of evaporated. That they're just, the past literally is dead.
I never drank. I never did drugs. I never turned to that. Never beat my wife and my kids and things. But a lot of times I'd go out behind the barn, beyond the barn, so to speak, and cry, And I never knew for years and years why I did this, and until I actually got some help. I don't think this will ever happen to me again. Things kick it off. Smells, sounds, rotor blades, helicopter rotor blades, things like that. They kick every vet off, But I don't think I'll ever have this problem again. And so Vietnam's been amazing for me to heal myself.
people call it a projector. Some people call it a projectile.
Unless you want to step up yourself.
Oh, I'd rather shoot it.
Okay.
I'd rather.
That's loose then, okay?
It's a precarious place. Get up there to the wind?
That's a hard pass. That's a hard pass. If I was your weight, I'd get up there.
Now, what are you thinking about in going back to Vietnam? Why did you decide to do it?
Well, I'll give you the short, non-answer answer is that Gary asked me if I wanted to go. And I've wanted to go back. I have friends from high school I play golf with, and some are veterans, a lot aren't. And they ask, well, why in the hell are you going back? Why do you want to do that? And I said, well, I can't give you a good answer, but I can still see, and I think about it every day. I can still see where Alex was hit, and I think I can find it. I remember, I can see when I got hit. You know, and I don't have flashbacks, you know, and I guess you can call them intrusive thoughts because I think about it every fucking day. But not all of it's bad. So I don't know, maybe it'll be healing.
Hello. Hello. How are you?
Before I worked American.
You did.
Yeah, cô làm việc ở đâu ạ? Cô hồi đó cô được bông vàng với lại nhà bếp cho lính Mỹ ấy. She cleaned the kitchen and also the dining room for American soldiers.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Hồi đó cô mới.
What a sweetheart. Oh God, maybe she was an army battalion. No, she's probably downtown. We had this nasty old Marine cook.
Another interesting thing was to sit down across the table, face to face with your enemy. But on the other hand, they're soldiers and we're soldiers. And when they were asked the questions, one of our group were asking questions of one of the soldiers, and it was probably too technical, and he looked back at us and he says, I was just following orders. I really don't know. I was given an order to go into combat and fight, and that's what I did. And that's exactly what we do as Marines, what Army does. That's what we do. We follow orders. Soldiers anywhere in any country in any war have the same feelings.
But we found out all three of them were wounded and came home early. That's why they're still alive. And you think of all the sacrifices we made, which was true, but you think of all the sacrifices they made. And it's pretty profound.
To embrace those men who were once our foes, and now that we were friends. And regardless of what had happened, the tragedy that had happened in our lives and in theirs, this trip has helped me to drop a lot of baggage that I've been carrying for many, many years.
After the interview's up, we got up, we walked outside, and we hugged. I went to shake hands, and the guy just grabbed me. It's like awesome. You know, even though he's an enemy, if you look at it and think about it, he's also a brother. You're in combat. That was, I will take that back with me.
Somebody said that for someone who wasn't there, you can't describe it. And for someone who was there, you don't need to. You don't know what you're getting into. And things were quiet when we walked over, when we humped it over there. Hill 50 is only 50 meters high, so it's not a big mountain or anything. And when we were walking over on the trail, when they have air bombardments with artillery, a lot of them are air bursts. The bombs, or the artillery shells blow up in the air. And there were chunks of steel as big as your fist on the trail. And I thought, nothing can be alive on that hill.
I'm not at the end of the... The reason he's so significant is he wasn't like us. I mean, the rest of us were we could be brutal. Charlie Alexander wasn't like that. He was just a humane person, while at the same time an able Marine at the same time. He didn't lose his sense of humanity in the course of carrying out his duties as a Marine. He was the kind of person that you just had a lot of affection for. And so when that kind of a person gets killed, something, it's a piece of your heart. You've lost it, lost a piece of your heart. No two ways about it. And I didn't know that. I mean, I could have guessed it, but I didn't know it for sure until I started talking to people like Detty and others who had the same feelings I did.
This is the place where there was a big mass American casualty and so much blood had run out that it made, layers of dried blood in the sand. That's what he told us at lunch. Right down here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my platoon sergeant, my platoon commander, our company commander, and half the platoon were killed.
Ông bảo là ở đây đó, đại đội trưởng, tiểu đội trưởng, chỉ huy tiểu đội.
At least we agreed that we almost certainly landed on 197 over there then, with the helicopters. Is that what you're saying?
You might be right. I don't think we walked from 197 to the smaller one. I think we're at the smaller one. I don't ever remember.
Did we land
so
on
far.
one of the
the fields?
It didn't seem like it was that far from 197 to where Lima Company stopped for the night. When we got there, we had some wrong intelligence. We were told, and I just learned this a few months ago, that the South Vietnamese were there as a blocking force, the ARVN troops. And they gave a report to us that Hill 50 was secure. And that was anything but the truth. So when we got there, we kind of walked around, my group walked around the bottom of the hill, went right past an unexploded tank of napalm, which we gave a wide berth to. When we came around the hill, along a creek, we heard some AK-47 fire.
We were starting to go up this hill, and that's when the fighting started. We started getting intense fire from AK-47s, and not only that, but a 51 caliber machine gun.
We did this in '66 with hundreds of pounds of stuff on us. Can't do it today. Oh boy.
Air bombardment at my angle. That's why it makes me feel like it's obliquely. At an angle to the left, huh?
I gotta believe it took us 30 minutes anyway.
And then, but this was blown clean by the bombardment and the airstrikes, right?
Nothing was here except waist-high brush.
Okay. But
And
that's from natural condition or from the bombardment?
Mostly natural.
Natural, yeah.
Yeah. The hill was covered with brush about as high as this table. And it was very thick and it was hard to get through, but I walked past an area that was 8 or 10 feet in diameter that had been cleared, and the center of it was a large piece of rusted tin metal. And what you didn't do in Vietnam, you didn't step on something like that in case it was booby-trapped. So I gave it a wide berth. What I didn't know was that underneath that metal was an NVA soldier in what we called a spider hole.
You know, then if this is the hole, it would have been 3 times as deep. And this fits a lot better. There's almost like a little shelf down there. Here, like I said, there was a big rough piece of rusty tin that was right here, and I would have come along where you're standing. I was probably down there someplace when I heard someone call for corpsman up.
Now you have to understand that there's a lot of fire going on yet, and there are bullets flying by us. You couldn't stand up on that hill. So I was on my belly the whole time almost. And bullets are going by. When a bullet goes by you, it's like a bee going by your ear. It's a bzzz, you know? And I knew I couldn't stand up, so I'm crawling down towards where Dave was. And back in those days, I was very skinny, and I could get lower to the ground than a snake's belly button. So I was working my way down to Dave, and I hadn't gone about 10 feet when there was a burst from an AK-47 directly over here. And it was so loud, it deafened me in my left ear for 3 days. And I think I felt the muzzle blast across my face, and the leaves fluttered down in front of my helmet. And when a gun is fired, you can smell cordite from the gunpowder. I could smell the cordite in my nose. I knew I was close. I was probably within 6 or 10 feet of that guy in that spider hole down there. And what happened is I think he saw me coming through the brush or something, but he raised up, squeezed off a few rounds, and then I had to go this way. I had to angle down. That's when this maybe saved my bacon. This is my entrenching tool, and you carry this on your back. That's what you dig in with. But 2 rounds struck here, and then 1 or 2 went through there, and actually ruined my C rations inside my pack. So I worked my way down to Dave, and there was so much going on down there.
Went up in this direction. The first wounded that I treated would have been right here, who was beyond help. There was another one 10 or 20 feet above him who had been taking a bullet through the belly. And that's when Fitch came up and with his radio whip antenna signaled if the VC was down there, that whip antenna was going like this. And you know, they always wanted to take out the radio men if they could. And they got him right in the leg. And he and I were bent over, keeping low. And I saw his pants leg blouse open. And then something pitched me forward over the wounded guy. We untangled ourselves. And then Gary Harlan and Hester saw me struggling down here and came to help. And they got those 2 guys out.
You know, the machine gunners were down there out of action. a couple of our senior sergeants were coordinating the fire teams and things. Grenades were going back and forth. And I told Dave, I said, we got to get out of here. So I said, Dave, can you crawl? He said, yeah. So I said, there's ARBN troops on the top of the hill. Let's crawl up to the top of the hill. I'll look at your wound there. So we did. And this was the scary part for me. And we got up to the top. We could see the ARBN troops were over there 50 or 60 feet. And I thought, well, we're safe here. So I just cut open Dave's trouser leg to look at the wound from the grenade. And he was laying on his back. I was on my belly. And I had just looked at his wound, and he started to scream, VC, VC. The fellow in the spider hole had, I think, followed us up the hill through the brush and was going to do us in. And as Dave screamed VC, he started to fire with his AK-47. And I thought, well, this is how it's going to end. So as quick as I could, I rolled to my left, and I pulled my 45 from my shoulder holster. And as I came up with my 45, there was a burst from an M14. And one of our squad leaders saw the corpsman working on a wounded guy, and came over to kind of give him cover, and he neutralized the North Vietnamese. And it was just this bang, bang, bang action. I don't think I had time to get scared, but when I heard the AK-47, I thought, we're not going to make it. And so when there was a burst from the AK-47, a burst from the M14, and then I finally got turned over. I looked, and Dave had gotten shot in the foot again, and the dead North Vietnamese soldier was kind of laying at our feet. That's kind of how Operation Utah ended for me. You know, after that, things quieted down, and we picked up our wounded and the dead Marines and things, and moved away after that. But for 3 hours, it was, you can't describe it.
The next thing I know, this 12.7 millimeter machine gun went through the helmet of our machine gunner that's on line, our M60 machine gunner, and it just like a fountain of blood came through out the back of his head, and he just, went down, and I knew he was dead before he even hit the ground. So from then on, it was just a state of shock.
And I think we want to go slow because I think Gary can add a great deal to this conversation.
You guys just appeared. I mean, but I didn't.
Well, it's like this.
I got up here.
At 1 minute we had order and leadership, and then when, like I said, Scotty got that round, 12.7 millimeter round through his forehead and out the back with a fountain of blood. It all just was every man for himself. So
yeah. Were you the one that yelled "Corpsman up" when?
Probably.
Okay. But I know how I got up here, but I truthfully can't tell how anybody else got up here. I just remember the guy in the spider hole down there was hiding under a big rusty piece of tin, and I would have stepped on it, if I hadn't been more careful.
And the thing that I remember is that I couldn't figure out any other way to get up that hill than to stand up and to tell people that we had to go up that hill. And that's what I did. And as I did that, like this, I was shot here and into my arm. and it felt like a sledgehammer hit me. And I thought about that, and I thought, oh, that was probably kind of stupid. I remember somebody giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and I remember saying, I don't give a shit. I said, I don't care. and after that, I really don't remember anything.
And when we found Gene, Lieutenant Cleaver, he was in shock. He wasn't breathing. His heart rate was slow. And he'd taken 2 or 3 rounds to his chest.
So I knew you had a sucking chest wound, and you were headed into shock if you weren't already there. So I gave Gary Harlan, I think, the cellophane wrappers from the cigarette packages I used to save. And as I gave you mouth-to-mouth, it reinflated your lungs. The blood and the air bubbled up out of your wound, and we slapped that seal on there, bandaged it up, and kept giving you mouth-to-mouth until your heart rate came up.
And we got him going. And we got him on a chopper, and he made it. So, but for 3 hours, that's what I did.
I think at least one. Oh, good. Might work.
So that's where it started.
Yes, the beginning.
Kathy is a Navy nurse, which I met in the Naval Hospital after I was wounded.
I was stationed at the Philadelphia Naval Hospital.
So without me being here, I probably would have never met. And without me living, I certainly wouldn't have met her.
Okay.
That, if you would have asked me how long did that last, I couldn't have told you, because it was just time was there. Time just stopped. The moment that you know, I saw that guy go, the machine gunner go down like that, it was just time just stopped, and it turned out the battle was about 3.5 hours.
That day, I got a round that creased my arm right there. Just enough to just make an abrasion. Didn't get real hard. I got a round through my trouser. 2 guys laying in front of me. Both of them shot right in front of me at the same time. So I must have a guardian angel.
I've talked about doing this for over 30 years. Yeah, I wanted to do it in '96.
Gene, why don't you stand in front here? You can stand in front of it. All right, Gary's going to say something.
Father Gene.
Don't let me cut you off, but I'm going to cut you off.
Yeah.
Well, it was 53 years ago that our unit, Lima Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, and Mike's unit, India Company, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, as well as the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, and the 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, and the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines fought in this area. And on the morning of March 5th, our company lost 10 men and 20 wounded. And I just want to say, not only do we want to, I'd like to remember all the men who died here, but not only all the Americans that died in this war, but all the people who died in this war, from Cambodia, Vietnam, and Laos, everyone. Just want to remember, honor their memory.
For now. Go ahead and say it.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, as we gather together on the top of this infamous mountain that has haunted us and our previous enemies that are friends today, we're so grateful to come here and have closure and to reflect back on those terrible times. And we dedicate this time to the men who died here and serving our country, and those who were from Vietnam and their families. We're so grateful that this land has been blessed with peace and that the people are prospering, and we humbly ask that Thou will watch over them and our families also, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And now I'm going to read first of all the 10 men from Lima Company, and there's one person from the headquarters company. PFC Ricky Garner, Lance Corporal Philip Fitch, PFC Gerald Parks, PFC T.W. Edwards, Lance Corporal James Bradley, Corporal Jimmy Sanchez, PFC Jose Laguerre, Sergeant David Shields, Staff Sergeant Leonard Holquist, and Private Joe Evans from H&S Company. These young men didn't have an opportunity to live their life. Like, certainly I was lucky. I lived and I had that opportunity, but they didn't. And I think it might be good to dedicate some of the good that we do, to their memory. Hopefully they'll be as proud of us as we're of them.
There's a good side and a bad side to the positive side and the negative side to the extreme brotherhood that we had. It's a positive thing to have lived in a world where race and so forth and ethnic backgrounds are just totally irrelevant. Totally. And you don't see people in terms of, oh, that black guy over there, that Chicano over here, the white dude over here. No, you just saw Marines, and that's a very extremely positive thing. The bad part is, you go back to the world where those things are relevant, and if you're somebody like me, you just have no patience whatsoever for these people, and how they take for granted what they've got. So I'm glad we did it. I'm glad there is a group that's willing to lay down their life for their friends.
Quỹ của Mặt Trận đang cho là để mà chở thương binh mới sống chết đó.
Has anybody got any?
Hậu nó cái bộ chỉ huy ở nhà tôi đó.
Empty water bottle? No. Let me get some of that dirt.
Gary, since this rough footing and you have sandals on, do you want me to run down and get it for you?
If you would.
Because I have more proper footwear. Hold my water bottle. Yeah. Give the lid for this. Okay, and where do you want it from? Like right out in the middle of the... Yeah. Okay.
Well, this is something I've wanted to do for 25 years. To see this spot right here where my good friend and a lot of my squad got killed. Emotionally, I'm at the right place to be here today. I feel balanced today, centered.
Over there, a couple of clicks. It's where Alexander was killed. Yes. He was. We were in the same fire team for 6 months. I mean, that was like brothers.
A black Marine.
A black hillbilly Marine and a white hillbilly Marine.
No color. He was a Marine brother.
And I remember back then the black folks they cut parts in their hair. You shaved it. So a white boy, I cut a part in his hair, but it was about that wide, and that was fucked up. And all I remember is walking by a tree in this flak jacket, an ace bandage, and a bunch of fucking blood.
okay. We don't have to. Let's talk about sin. Make it halfway home. You want to?
Yeah. Anyway, so that was February 21st when that happened, and when this happened in here was October. So that's about it. It does when one of the reasons that's the big reason I came back.
It's hard, even after 53 years. It's tough. Maybe some people don't understand how you can hold that in for so many years, but it's there. I think this helped.
All right, I'm dry. My biggest takeaway is that my war is here, not here. I think I'm more at peace, and I noticed that I really don't have any animosity with the Vietnamese 50 years ago, 40 years ago, probably. But I'm a different person now, I've grown, I've learned a lot. I don't know if I found that exact piece of me, but I'm closer. I think I can be at peace with it. I'm at peace with the country and the people here. I'm taking it as it comes in the moment, and so I'm not thinking about 50 years ago. Before I thought about it every day for years, and that's kind of subsided. I just take it in, enjoy it.
God, that's really sacred ground. Really. It's like the Iwo Jima sacred ground still. What happened? It's unusual for somebody to come here. There's plenty of guys that come over and they go to Da Nang and Hanoi and so forth, but they never come out in the provinces like this. This is pretty unusual. All right. Hill 50 dirt. All right. I'll make little gifts for people and send it to them for Christmas.
I said in my closing remarks, no matter whether we serve in the same unit or not, there's a camaraderie between combat vets, and that just means so much. I really appreciate y'all putting up with me being not in your unit. So I love this trip. I lost a lot of baggage. I'm grateful for you helping me do that.
It's 53 years later. Remember, we were out at Snaggletooth at that point then. How many of you guys thought that 53 years later from those days when we had a dinner in Hanoi?
I wasn't even certain I was going to make it to 21.
We were hoping we wouldn't be having dinner in North Vietnam sometime, but 53 years later,
It's hard to
kind of assimilate this. That 50 years later, we're still around and we're here with comrades and family and things like that, and having dinner in Hanoi. That's incredible.
It is. It is.
He went a long way toward me changing my views of race relations. We were in the same fire team fighting over 6 months, 7 months. He was so loving and forgiving. You know how Good.